Welcome to Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with national and local thought leaders on issues impacting the South Florida Black community. Now introducing our host, Anne-Marie Sorrell.
Welcome to Legacy Leaders. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group, your global advertising, marketing, and PR agency. Today, I'm joined by Oliver G. Gilbert III, who is the current chairman and commissioner of District 1 for the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners, and he's also the former mayor of the city of Miami Gardens. Today, we will discuss his role as chair and some of the initiatives happening in Miami-Dade County. Welcome, Commissioner Gilbert.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. And listen, let me just say, I love your intro, the music, the vibe. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Well, we're so honored to have you on our show. You are the newest chairman for the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners. How exciting must that be? And I don't think you're a stranger to many of our viewers, but for those who may not know you or may not have known your work in the city of Miami Gardens, and now your work with Miami-Dade County, can you briefly take us through your journey and background to becoming the now current chair of the Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners?
Well, I'm a kid who was born and raised in Miami Gardens. And so it's, Miami Gardens becomes a city in 2003. I run for office in 2003. I actually lose the election, but I stay very active in the community because it's for the first time I can see, the things that we didn't have in our area, the things that I knew we wanted. We wanted economic development. We wanted good parks. We wanted all these things. We didn't have it. I stayed active. A friend of mine, Oscar Braden, runs for the state house. I get appointed to his seat. I run for re-election for that seat. And then I run for mayor in 2012. Against 6 people, I got like 63% of the vote. So when I ran for mayor, what I talked to the residents and the voters of Miami Gardens about was building a city that people wanted to move to and not from. And that's the type of city that has economic development. So you could actually go on a date in your hometown. You could actually buy a nice dress, buy a nice suit in your hometown, because that's how you create economic wealth. That's how you create commerce for that. That's how you create community. A lot of times we conflate what a city is and what a community is. A city is something that's organized under the state's laws. A community is something that allows you to live and exist in it. And so we needed to build community, and we did that. We did that by investing in parks. We did that by, little things in law enforcement, like recruiting the kids from Miami Gardens, sending them to the police academy, making them the police officers in Miami Gardens. So it could be truly community policing by people who are actually from and living in the community. We had initiatives like that focused on economic development. And then in 2020, I get reelected in 2016. In 2020, Miami Gardens goes from being what was previously one of the most dangerous cities in the country to no longer anywhere on that list, but also now an all-American city, which is what I told them we would become. I remember when I said it, people laughed. I said, just give us time. And it was my eighth year as mayor, but we got it done. So I was very happy to do that. I run for county commission, tough race. I win the race, and I'm immediately elected as vice chairman of the board because I had served with a lot of the folks who were on the county commission as the chair of the TPO. And so they knew what my advocacy and leadership was in transportation, and they made me the vice chair immediately. 2 years after that, I run for chair, and I win unanimously.
Well, congratulations on all of your successes, accomplishments, especially for the advancements in Miami Gardens, where our company is very proud to represent and have represented Miami Gardens for several years now, both under your leadership. So it's great to see what you've done there and to see what you are doing in the county, which we're going to talk about because some people may not. I think your scope and territory is so much larger now at the county level, and it's so easy to see the work that you do when you're, the mayor of a city versus when you're now part of a larger geographical area that you have to represent. So as chair, let's talk about what are some of the initiatives that you are personally leading on the commission at the Miami-Dade County Board of Commissioners?
Well, on a level, just in my district, one of the things that I'm doing is I started replacing every septic tank in the community. So a lot of times you hear about septic tanks and people getting on the sewer lines. What I said was a lot of folks don't have the money to do that. On average between $8,000 and $15,000. What we're going to do is, even if we just do it one at a time, we're going to start replacing them. And so I dedicated $1 million last year and now $1 million this year to actually paying for the private portion to replace those septic tanks, because it's my goal to take out every septic tank that's in District 1. And that does a couple of things. It helps the environment. It brings value to your property, but it also increases economic development, because one of the little known facts is you can't have restaurants and stuff like that on septic tanks. You need those sewer lines to be expanded. You need that infrastructure in place. So because I focus that type of attention on it from a district perspective, the county has focused their attention on it from a public perspective. And so we've accelerated how we're actually replacing the septic tanks in this portion of the county, because I'm willing to provide a dedicated resource. So if there's a central line, we will pay to get those residents off septic tanks. That's on the district level. On the county-wide level, one of the things I focus on is transit, mass transit. And it's interesting that when we talk about housing prices, we talk about economic development, we talk about all these things, we don't talk about transportation. Transportation is the thing that affects every other thing. We can't have a stable housing market without having reliable, rapid mass transit. We can't have true economic development that spreads to every portion of the community without having a good rapid mass transit system. And so I sponsored something called the RTZ, the Rapid Transit Zone, which says along these corridors, we're going to allow you to build higher and more dense uses. So what we want you to build businesses there, or we want you to build density apartments there, condominiums there. One of the things that we note about the housing crisis in Miami-Dade County is that you can say what you want to about people overcharging and all that stuff. Supply and demand is the first thing you learn in the very first day of an economics class. We need to increase the supply to a point where it exceeds the demand to bring down the cost. Right now, people can charge you what they want because they know you need some place to stay, and they know that they have a limited a commodity, that they have something that's in desperate need. No one else has it. They have housing. Well, if you had more housing, they wouldn't be able to charge you whatever they wanted. These are decisions that were made, 20, 30 years ago, when people decided, hey, we didn't want to build apartments. We didn't want to build density. We didn't want to look. I appreciate that everyone wants to grow up in the South Florida, or to live in the South Florida, and their children to live in the South Florida that they grew up in. It's going to change. If we've learned anything from history, is that it's going to change. What we need to do is shape that change in a way that, while it might feel different, it still provides a sense of home and community. And we can do that with proper planning. And so I've been working diligently on that. The rapid mass transit zone, we got it passed, and you're starting to see developments come out of the ground because of it. And then I've also been working diligently on reviving the conversation that we need a metro rail down 27th Avenue that goes to Broward County and hopefully into Broward County. But we can no longer afford to have cars on the road for every person that moves here. We can't have a new car for every person because people are moving here too fast. We can't afford that from an environmental perspective. We can't afford that from a congestive perspective. We know that we have to have rapid mass transit. We've had people talk around it and promise it. What I'm trying to do is actually speak directly to the issue, engage the people about it, engage my colleagues about it, because everyone talks about how much it costs to do it. It costs a lot not to do it too, but it's a lot more difficult to quantify. But these added costs that people have with regard to housing, a lot of that's tied to rapid mass transit. These are things that we know will affect us down the road. Us planning helps us get ahead of it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that. And we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back from our break, Chairman Gilbert, we're going to talk about some of the other challenges that residents are seeing in Miami-Dade County and how you as chair, as well as your colleagues, are solving for this. So we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Miami-Dade Transit's Better Bus Network is shifting into gear. This community-led effort creates better access and an improved rider experience with less wait times and more reliable service. The new network provides more frequent and faster trips to more parts of the county, increasing transit access to jobs, education, healthcare, and quality of life. Learn about the new routes and new connections by visiting miamidade.gov/betterbus.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman & Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
It's time to find a health plan that can keep up with your life. A plan that makes getting care convenient, with doctors around the corner.
I can get used to that.
Plus, 24/7 access to care. Plans that keep more money in your pocket, with plan payments as low as $0.
$0. Looks good to me.
Let's find your health solution. Click to speak to a dedicated Florida Blue agent today.
At DRT Behavioral Services, we provide culturally sensitive mental health evaluations with thorough treatment plans, incorporating alternative forms of wellness, not just Western traditional medicine. Besides medication management and psychotherapy, we provide education to people in the areas of minority mental health with classes on your diet's impact on mood and sleep hygiene for better rest. We also offer weight loss therapy, massages, and facials. Visit brainlovehelp.com today.
Welcome back, Chairman Gilbert. So you touched on transit, which we know is, a big challenge, but you're solving for it. And I'm sure we're going to continue to see changes over the next, several years as, this transition happens. You mentioned a little bit about housing and the housing crisis that not only do we have in Miami-Dade County, but across the state of Florida. What are some of the other big challenges that you see that residents, whether in your district or across the county, are facing, and how are you and your colleagues solving for some of these challenges?
Well, it's not one thing, it's all things. So one of the interesting things is we like to separate these things out, but in truth, they're interconnected in a way that they're inextricably intertwined. You can't separate the cost of living, for instance, in Miami-Dade County from the cost of housing in Miami-Dade County. You can't separate housing from mass transit and the absence of reliable public mass transit. So those things are connected in ways that we don't always acknowledge in our public discourse. And so, because if we acknowledge it in our public discourse, we have to have a real honest conversation about what we needed to do as a community, as a government, to actually solve it. I connect those things, because I don't think that we can solve them independent of each other. We can only play around the edges independent of each other. If we're going to actually solve it, we have to actually get into it. We have to build more house, allow for more houses to be built. We have to invest in rapid mass transit. We have to commit ourselves to the environment. Look, when people ask me what's the biggest threat, I always get the question, what's the biggest threat to Black people? And I said, the biggest threat to humanity is the existential threat of climate change. We don't acknowledge it in that way in our community. I remember one person said, well, we don't have beaches in Miami Gardens, so it don't matter. So sea level rise don't affect us. It absolutely does, because our economy is dependent on tourism. And so if you don't care about the environment, care about 1 out of every 5 jobs in Miami-Dade County is tied to tourism. If tourism goes away, we have an economic problem, a financing problem in Miami-Dade County that becomes extremely bad. And so all of those things being connected, if I had to pick one thing that I thought was the issue that affected everybody, not just in Miami-Dade County, Broward, but the entire state, it's not something that we can do something about, but it's homeowners insurance. Look, the homeowners insurance crisis it's doing a good job of pricing people out of their ability to actually be in homes. And so it's something that I think that the state government, we've looked at some things from a county perspective, but it's difficult to deal with on a county perspective because you can't underwrite that much risk. It has to be something the state does, and the legislature, they dabble in everything else. They tried to fix this 3 times. Every time they tried to fix it, it got worse. So if they could focus on that, it would be great. But in the end, it's probably going to have to be something that FEMA addresses. And I think there's probably going to have to be some level of national underwriting of homeowners insurance in places that are at risk for natural disasters. And that won't just be Miami-Dade County. That'll be places that are at risk, in the middle of the country for the tornadoes and all that stuff. We need to be able to address this.
Absolutely. Well, I do know that the administration, I believe, just launched an investigation into Florida's citizen insurance to see, what's happening with that. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. But you're absolutely right, because as much as we had gotten an influx of residents, I think, we're starting to see people reconsidering our state due to, the high homeowners insurance, as well as some other challenges. And, you bring up a good point about legislation. And of course, we're going to be moving into a new legislative session coming up soon. And we know that decisions that happen in Tallahassee impacts local government in a major way. I know you don't have a crystal ball, sir, but what do you see, or what are you hearing from some of your colleagues that may be some hot button issues in the upcoming legislative session, and how will those, if at all, impact your local government?
Well, the legislative session in Tallahassee has historically been a bad time for Miami-Dade County. So anytime the legislature is in session previously, it's always been something that really didn't inure to our benefit. So I'm not expecting great things. What I think they'll try to do some stuff in education. I hope they try to do some stuff in homeowners insurance. I know those things are on their plate. Public health is something that they really could step in and be helpful with. And I think there will be some movements along. I think there will probably be a lot of preemptions. Preemptions, for your viewers who might not know it, are areas where the state government says local governments can't legislate in this area. So for instance, right now they're considering a bill to preempt our ability to have a living wage in Miami-Dade County. Now, they want us to be, guided and regulated by, I guess, the minimum wage federally in the state and in the state. And from our perspective, I don't know what it costs to live in Polk County. I do know what it costs to live in Miami-Dade County. And I know that those things are different. So one of the things that you said before is you said, housing is a problem all across the state, but it's really not a problem all across the state. It's a problem, a much larger problem in your large urbanized areas. So that's where the problem exists, because that's where the scarcity exists. That's where the supply and demand aren't leveled off. And so in the legislature, one of the things they like to do is say, well, everybody's the same. In truth, not saying we're better or worse, we're just different. Miami-Dade County's economy is larger than 17 states. You really comprehend that. Our county budget is like $12 billion. We're providing services for residents and visitors on a scale that no one else in Florida can contemplate right now. And so I think it makes sense to allow people in Monticello to do things that work for Monticello. But I think it probably also makes sense to allow people in Miami to do it the way that it works for people in Miami. And so I appreciate my colleagues and my friends in the legislature. it's my hope that they acknowledge that. And some of these preemptions that come up, they say, hey, listen, let's stay out of that, because in truth, when you start messing with what a living wage is and how much people make down here, listen, our economy is one of the things that actually pushes the state's economy. You don't want to stop or change that in a meaningful way. And so I'm hopeful that we can come to some agreements on that. But we're very active in the legislature with our lobbying team. I'll be up there a couple of times to make our case. And so we'll see.
And I'm glad you brought it to that relevance, because I think people have to be able to see, no matter if it's governance on a local level or federal level, they have to have something specific to them that they can relate to on how government has impacted them. And so thank you for giving that relevancy. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back, because I want to understand and hear what's on the horizon for you, Chairman Gilbert.
Yeah.
Miami-Dade Transit's Better Bus Network is shifting into gear. This community-led effort creates better access and an improved rider experience with less wait times and more reliable service. The new network provides more frequent and faster trips to more parts of the county, increasing transit access to jobs, education, healthcare, and quality of life. Learn about the new routes and new connections by visiting miamidade.gov/betterbus.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family. Our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman & Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
It's time to find a health plan that can keep up with your life. A plan that makes getting care convenient, with doctors around the corner.
I can get used to that.
Plus, 24/7 access to care. Plans that keep more money in your pocket, with plan payments as low as $0.
$0. Looks good to me.
Let's find your health solution. Click to speak to a dedicated Florida Blue agent today.
At DRT Behavioral Services, we provide culturally sensitive mental health evaluations with thorough treatment plans, incorporating alternative forms of wellness, not just Western traditional medicine. Besides medication management and psychotherapy, we provide education to people in the areas of minority mental health with classes on your diet's impact on mood and sleep hygiene for better rest. We also offer weight loss therapy, massages, and facials. Visit brainlovehelp.com today.
Welcome back, Chairman Gilbert. Now, you're always on the move. We know you're a man on the move. So what is next on the horizon for you?
Well, when I leave here today, I'm probably going to go take a nap. I'm just getting off a plane from Japan. But look, I've always, not just in public service, but since I graduated from law school, my focus has always been to do the job that I have to the best of my ability. And everything else would take care of itself. And I've done that. As a city councilman in Miami Gardens, I remember I had some initiatives and people said, they're not going to vote for you. And then they made me mayor. When I ran for commission, I talked about the things that I said I'd do in Miami Gardens. And all I said was, hey, I said I was going to do this, check. I said I was going to do this, check. I do the things that I say I'm going to do. And so that's what I'm doing right now. When I ran for county commission, I talked about actually creating movement on this rapid mass transit. Like it'd been stalled for far too long, and that's what we're doing. I talked about making sure that we invested in communities, not just in my district, but all over this county, in a way that, from a county perspective, we created the capacity for people to participate in the economy of Miami-Dade County. And so we're doing that. We're doing that because it's important. I talked about students and helping young people and broadening their horizons. So I didn't see my first opera or ballet until I was 40. And so now I take kids to the opera and ballet. They should see it in their teens. You know, I didn't travel on a plane until I was going to college. Now I took kids to the Grand Canyon and took them to Broadway plays. And this year we're taking them to DC to see the Capitol, because we need kids in our community to be able to see the bigness and vastness and beauty of this world. It's not, if you don't see any of that stuff, it's just another concrete jungle. If we have kids in this community who's never been to the beach, that's amazing, because we live in Miami. That's amazing. The kids who don't know where the zoo is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We can fix those things. And so I spend time, effort, and resources trying to fix those things, because I believe that success is not a destination. It really is a journey, and you never really get there. My job is to make progress in all of these. So absolutely. I make this point, and I know we're running short on time, but there are two basic types of leaderships that I understand. You have people who want to do ribbon cuttings and people who want to do groundbreakings. If you look at Miami Gardens right now, they're doing all type of ribbon cuttings every week, because I did groundbreakings.
Mm-hmm.
It's our time in the county now to do groundbreakings. We do a groundbreaking on how the county is going to look and be successful for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We have to start that. We have to go into it with that type of mentality, that we may not be there to cut the ribbon. But successful leadership and the continuity of leadership, sometimes you're not there to cut the ribbon. Sometimes other people reap the harvest that you planted. We did it, our grandparents did it for us, and now we do it for our grandkids. That's
absolutely
of how we lead. And that's the nature of how I lead.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Chairman Gilbert. Everyone can follow Chairman Gilbert on social media at Gilbert3. Gilbert 3 on social media. We appreciate you joining us today. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Sorrell, and see you next time on Legacy Leaders.
At DRT Behavioral Services, we provide culturally sensitive mental health evaluations with thorough treatment plans, incorporating alternative forms of wellness, not just Western traditional medicine. Besides medication management and psychotherapy, we provide education to people in the areas of minority mental health, with classes on your diet's impact on mood and sleep hygiene for better rest. We also offer weight loss therapy, massages, and facials. Visit brainlovehelp.com today.